the way I treated people or the things I did in my life, I still blush at times, try to let it go. But by the time I was 30, I was friendless, working in the smallest market in radio I had ever worked in. I mean, even at 15 years old. Hopeless alcoholic, using drugs every day. My family was just a shambles. The biggest change was I was trying to find a job. Nobody would hire me. Nobody believed that I really changed my ways, and couldn't get an agent to represent me or anything. I looked for about 2 years to try to find an entrance into talk radio. And my wife-to-be, said she wouldn't marry me unless we had a religion that we shared. And I said, well, I can't do organized religion. It's all about manipulation and power and money and everything else. And she said, well, I'm not going to marry you. And so, you know, like every guy does with absolutely no spine, I said, okay, we'll go find a church. And we went on a church tour, and we went to everything. I mean, I went to churches where, and I'm not kidding, the sermon on Sunday was delivered by an atheist, which was an interesting concept. But my wife actually said, I'd like one that actually, you know, believes in God. But a friend of mine called me and said, you know, how long have we been friends? And I said, why? And he said, well, you really going on a church tour? And I said, oh, freak boy, calm down. I ain't going to your church. He's a Mormon. And I said, there is no way I'm going to be a Mormon. And he said, you owe it to me and my friendship. We've been friends through thick and thin for 20 years. You owe it to me to go one Sunday. And I said, okay, what time? And he said, 9 to noon. And I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 hours? What are you, insane? I said, you know, if your God can't get it done in 1 hour like everybody else's God, he ain't powerful enough. So we went, and my daughter, who has cerebral palsy, she went, and, you know, the kids weren't really digging the church tour thing. We were walking out, and my daughter said, you know, can we come back there? And my wife and I stopped dead in our tracks and said, what? And she said, I just feel so warm inside. And so we started to go, and because, you know, we figured, okay, well, you know, kids like it. And it was about 6 months later that I was sitting in a meeting, and one of the guys who I've dubbed the amazing Mr. Plastic Man, because he was the happiest guy ever to meet us. He was like, hey, the first time he met us, oh, I just love you so much. And I'm like, oh, give it a rest, brother. I mean, you'll hate me in 10 minutes, please. I spent my whole life hating me. And he was talking in Sunday school, and he was talking about the concept, which I'd never heard before, of Zion. And he said, how does this happen? How do we get there? And he said, I mean, a still powerful memory, he said, the only way this happens is if I truly love you and you truly love me. And we may not agree with each other, but we love each other. And I realized that he was the most genuine person I had ever met. And it was then that I thought, I don't care if there's Kool-Aid down in the basement, I'm drinking it, because I want to be like that, you know. I want to be able to genuinely love someone the first time I met them. What a great goal that is. And that's really what changed our life. That's it. We were baptized on a Sunday, and on Monday an agent called me out of the blue, and he said, I hear you're trying to do talk radio. And I said, yeah. And I swear to you, just like this, he said, do you know a guy named Gabe Hobbs? And I said, no, I know of him, but I don't know him. He said, somehow or another, he said, we need to connect you with him. He said, he can help you. As he said that, no kidding, my caller ID went off, or my call waiting went off, and I reached over and I said, hang on just a sec, George. And I said, hello, and he said, the voice on the other said, Glenn Beck, and I said, yes, and he said, this is Gabe Hobbs. And I went back to my agent, and he said, wow, do you ever feel like someone upstairs is watching over you? And I said,
And that's
yes, sir, I do.
That's what started all of this.
That's what started it all, and we have been. We just feel we are just so greatly blessed every step of the way. It changed everything. I was a hard drinking, hard living, hard talking man. I was on the wrong side for a long time, and it has totally changed me, totally changed my family, brought my family together. One concept that was really hard for us was Sunday, just honoring the Sabbath. And it only makes sense in so many ways. Our favorite day of the week now is Sunday, because there's nothing going on except celebrating the family. Having real perspective of what's really important. It was about a year ago, I asked the kids, I said, what's the best part of our family? And they said, Sunday. Being able to be together and just being a family, Sunday.
It's your refuge from all of this.
It is. It is. I know it. I would be, I wouldn't be here. Without it. I would be a drunk without it. I wouldn't have my family without it. And I couldn't do it. You can only, it only makes sense to be able to, it's like, you buy a car, you get an instruction manual. And guys never read it, and I never read it most of my life. Now that I find the instruction manual, it only makes sense. Power down. Keep things into perspective. Really, I think one of the things I think of all the time is cry out to him. Cry out. And I try to I try to have my relationship that way with him. Being able to just really be as passionate and as personal with him as he has been with me, and just to say, look, I am really struggling with this, help me. And it's remarkable. I'm lucky enough. Luck had nothing to do with it. I am so blessed to be able to have a wife who will tell me, you're coming home now. And I want that from her. She's the strongest, most remarkable person I am. I have partners in everything I do. And my wife is my most important partner. And my business partners, they just know, Glenn can't do that, or Glenn, you're not doing that, because it'll affect this or this or this in business. And my wife is that way. I wish there were 50-hour days. I could fill 50-hour days. I just need someone to help me say,